Yes, my dear students, welcome back to the class of computer graphics and visualization. Today, we are going to discuss about the topic double buffering. Actually, it's a very important concepts under the creation of the complex and animated images in computer graphics. Normally, we are going to use these concepts of double buffering whenever we will be implementing the programs using OpenGL. Okay. So basically, this double buffering is very much useful, or is one of the most commonly used solutions for the problems faced during low or variation in refresh rate, that is displaying the content of frame buffer while displaying the complex or animated images. See, normally what happens whenever we will be writing any graphics application programs, especially using OpenGL is concerned. Okay. So if we are going to display the very simple primitive simple objects as an output which is static one, then there will be no problem at all. So at that time we can use the facility called single buffering. Okay. But when we want to create the images which are more complex, or the animated images, so such kind of animated images, like for example, say you might have come across many programs in the lab also. For example, we have written a program for rotating the triangle, rotation of the color cube. Okay. See, all these images that you are going to create, they are not a static image. Okay. So they are going to rotate, means every time the coordinate values of those objects will be getting changed. That's very important over here. So whenever that will happen, we need to have a more computation which is required, especially for the animated images when we want to display. Okay. So at that time a single buffering will not be helpful. Okay. If you use the single buffering, then automatically it will suffer from the problem of that refresh rate. Okay. So what happens, we cannot get a smooth animation of the objects on our output if you are going to use the single buffering. To overcome this problem only, we came up with the facility called double buffering. So this double buffering facility is available in our OpenGL graphics applications, that we can make use of that. So in this double buffering, actually there are two frame buffers will be there. Anyway, you know that the frame buffer is the one in which actually the coordinate values of all those images, objects along with color, vertex values will be stored. Okay. So frame buffer, which is the actual storage of all the information of that particular image, that all of us we know that frame buffers. Okay. So in case of double buffering, there will be two frame buffers will be there, and one buffer we will be calling it as a front buffer, and another one will be calling it as a back buffer. Okay. Just you can observe over here that we have mentioned. So one is the front buffer and another one is the back buffer, and you will be having two separate frame buffer. So let's see what is the purpose of this front and back buffer. So front buffer is, this is the one that is used for displaying purpose. So actually in the front buffer, the information which is stored, by using that information we will be displaying the image on the output device. That is the purpose of what? Front buffer. When this is happening in the back buffer, what will be happening? So this back buffer is used for constructing what is to be displayed next. It means that, for example, say imagine if you want to create an image where you want to move the cycle is moving. See, from this position to this position, if the cycle is moving, then when I am going to display the cycle at this particular position, at that time in the back buffer, okay, the new locations of the cycle to be get displayed, that will be get constructed or what, calculated in the back buffer. Okay. So after displaying this, what happens, you know, okay, from the back buffer, okay, the values will be get swapped over the front buffer, and from that front buffer the cycle at the new position will be get displayed. By that time the cycle might have moved the next position, and in this next position coordinate values will be once again calculated under what, the back buffer, and it will be a continuous process. Okay. So every time we are going to perform what, swapping of the content from back buffer to the front buffer. So, that will be happening, and to make use of that means to carry out this swapping, normally we will be using a function called glut swap buffer. I think in most of the programs where you are going to use this double buffering concept, okay, in most of the OpenGL program, almost all, it is mandatory that you are supposed to use the this function called what, glut swap buffer. Okay. So, this is the mandatory function that you are supposed to use. Now, the question comes here, how we can use this double buffering facility in OpenGL program, this application program developed using the OpenGL. Okay. So, in OpenGL there is one function that we are going to make initialization of the display mode in the main function. Hope all of you might have come across. Every main function of the graphics applications which you are supposed to write using the OpenGL, it should come up with this function called what, glut init display mode, and this function will come up with 3 parameters. How many parameters? 3 parameters, and these 3 parameters are not mandatory, actually they are optional. Okay, what are those 3 parameters? In the first parameter, always I am going to define which color mode that I will be using. Okay. So, anyway here the color mode, our default color mode of graphics is always RGB color mode anyway. So, that we are going to mention it. Okay. And second thing is, okay, whether you want to use the single buffer or double buffer. Okay. So, just now we have told especially for complex object displaying and animated images, that if you want to display, then you should go for this double buffering. So, how to use the double buffering? You have to use this constant glut underscore double. Okay. So, if you do not want to use the double buffering, then there is a single buffer, that is glut underscore single, and this is also default in OpenGL. Whether you mention it or not, okay, always OpenGL is going to use the RGB color model, and your buffer will be always single. If you want to use the double buffering, explicitly you have to use this glut underscore double. Okay. And along with that, if you want to display any 3D objects, then you should also use glut underscore depth, and this is optional. Okay. If you want to display only 2D object, then this glut underscore depth is not necessary. Why? Because only in case of 3D, as it involves the z axis information also, we need to calculate the depth value of what, the every pixel point of that particular image which is made up of. That is very important here. So, that is why at that time I am going to use this glut underscore depth. Anyway, here our concentration is on double buffering. So, to use the double buffer, once again I will repeat, you have to use this function glut init display mode. Under that you have to use the constant glut underscore double, and that this function should be used in main function. And if you want to use the single buffering, glut underscore single is available, and this is for double buffering. And also do not forget to use this glut swap buffer. Okay. So, this is the actual purpose of using the double buffering facilities concerned. I hope the concept has been cleared over here. Okay. So, now we will move on to some important aspect over here, that is a good interactive program which should include what are all the features here. When I will say that my program is a good interactive program, first we need to try to understand what is the difference between a normal program and interactive program. That is very important. Okay. See, for example, say I have written one small C program to perform the addition of 2 numbers. Okay. If I have already defined or assigned the value of A and B within the program, and every time my program is going to calculate the summation of those 2 fixed numbers, and no inputs are taken by the user there, then automatically such kind of program is called as what? A normal program. Okay, it is not an interactive. When you say that the program will become interactive, only when there is an interaction between the user and the program. Through what? Through some sort of input devices. See, for example, say 4th program all of you have written. What is the 3rd program and 4th program? Rotation of a color cube. Okay. When I will say that it is an interactive program, only when that rotation is controlled by the user. See there, in your program you have interface the mouse over there, and whenever you will click on the different buttons on the mouse, your color cube will be get decided on which axis the color cube is to be get rotated. So, that is controlled by whom? The user. It means that user is interacting with the program through some sort of input devices. Such programs are called as what? Interactive programs. So, now if you are developing such kind of interactive programs, then what are the some good interactive program features that normally we need to include, especially in case of graphics programs are concerned. Okay, just we will go through the very simple points are there. We will go through one by one here. So, the very first point is it should have a smooth display showing neither flicker nor any artifacts of the refresh process. So, what it says that my output of the program means that image should have a very smooth display, and there should not be any kind of flickering in the sense what? Okay, the image should be constant over that particular output device. The user should not feel that the image is coming and going, means the image should not disappear at any time. It should be constantly displayed on the output device, and also a smooth display. Smooth display means actually whenever I am generating or writing a program for animated images there. For example, say if I am moving a cycle, okay, how the cycle should move? It should move smoothly as if it looks like in real time the cycle is moving on the road. Okay, I should not feel that in one position the cycle is displayed, suddenly it will be jumped to the another position. So, in between those two positions, if I am not able to see how the cycle has moved actually, then it is not a smooth display. Okay, that should not happen. And second point is a variety of interactive devices on the display, means when we should try to give a different sort of logical inputs with which the user can interact with that output, that is interactive devices that we are supposed to make a provision. Okay, either I can use a keyboard, mouse, or any type of like menus, either clear, scroll bar, all those things. So, variety of different ways of input are there with which we can interact with the program. Such facility has to be provided. And third one is a variety of methods for entering and displaying the information. Okay. So, I can enter the inputs with different types, and also my graphics output should have a capability of displaying what? Information in different ways. Okay. See, normally we might have seen whenever you are watching cricket match, you can observe there. Okay. The analysis will be done in so many variety of ways. Sometimes they will show some tabular column, sometimes they will show one pie chart, sometimes they will show one bar chart, okay, and histogram, all those things, variety of different representation they will show. Data will be same, but their representation is what? How they are displaying the information is always different. So, that we need to adopt. Fourth one is an easy to use interface that does not require substantial effort to learn. So, this is very important here. So, graphics means it is all about the user interface, okay. GUI, graphical user interface, and with respect to our software industry is concerned, the very basic need of every very good software is it should be easy to use. When we will say that it is easy to use? Only when the end users are very easily interact with that particular software, or they are able to use that particular application. That is called as what? Easy to use interface. It should not be very complex. Okay. The person should not feel that where the options are there, how to use the option, okay, and they should not feel that how to remember all these things. That should not happen. And fifth one is feedback to the user. Whenever user is going to do any task there, okay, there should be a provision of giving some sort of what? Feedback. See, for example, say whenever I will save some file, normally you might have observed there, okay, you will get some message saying that what? Okay, your file is saved successfully. Is it clear? You have deleted this data successfully. Means some sort of feedback on every task that the user is going to do, that should be given by the system. And next one is tolerance for the user errors. See, being a human being, it is quite natural that normally we are going to do the mistakes. Okay. So, when we will do the mistakes, my system should be capable of tolerating those errors. That is called as what? tolerance for user errors. And you might have observed most of the time whenever you are deleting any item there, suddenly it will not be get deleted. Okay, normally most of the time it will show. Okay, whether you want to are you sure you want to delete it. And even in mobile also, whenever I will delete my mail, okay, from the inbox there, okay, after deleting that, at the bottom it will be asking restore or undo, because most of the time by mistake I might have deleted. Okay, such kind of tolerance for the user errors provision should be given. And the last one is a design that incorporates consideration of both the visual and motor properties of the human. That's very important. So here the applications that we are going to develop, it should be more user friendly interaction only when we will consider this particular point. That is what, it should be more appropriate for both the visual and motor properties of the human here. So the very important thing is, most of the time the people might be suffering from some visual problem. Okay, the people might be suffering from some of the physically handicapped or whatever it may be. Okay, for such people also our system should be made provision to interact with those the application. Okay, that provision is to be given. When I am not able to use my hand fully to operate with to give some sort of input, I should give some other provision with which, for example, say when I can't give the input with my hand, I can give the input with my voice. This is another way of what, accepting the inputs. That capability should be there for my system. Okay, so such things have to be considered over here. So these are the 7 different features that should be adopted, then only we can call it as a good interactive program. Please try to remember all these points. Okay, thank you.